So how do we stop fighting in our relationship and not get into further conflict and damage and hurt in our relationship, right? How do we go from conflict to closeness? Today, I want to talk about the STOP strategy that I've created that has helped me in my marriage as well as many others. So the first thing in the STOP strategy to go from conflict to closeness is, number one, to step back, right? S.T.O.P, step back. And what I mean by stepping back is literally signaling something towards your wife that gives her the sense of, whoa, that caught me off guard. Maybe it's a literal physical stepping back, right? Where's this coming from? Or like, wait, what? Right? This kind of signals to your wife, or having to communicate to your wife and saying, whenever I have that look, whenever I say, wait, what? That should tell you, babe, that I'm kind of thrown off. I'm kind of confused. I'm not sure where this is coming from. And so you need to literally step back. Again, this signals to her, this signals to you, wait, there's something that I'm missing here. We are missing the cues here. We are missing the mark here. We're not connecting. We're not on the same page. So that's why it's important to step back from moving any more further and allowing this to be triggered into a negative conflict. You need to signal some kind of step back, time out notion, signal to her. Maybe it's an actual, wait, hold up, time out, right? That signals a timeout and say, hey, we're beginning to get into this negative cycle here. So after you step back and you signal to your wife a timeout or some kind of way to keep this negative cycle between the two of you from going crazy, the next thing is to take deep breaths. When you give her a timeout and step back and you explain to her like what's going on, I would encourage you, because inside of you, in your body, in your mind, you're probably saying things to the effect of, here we go again. We're getting into that conflict, that argument. It's going to get bad. It's going to get really bad. That point, in that moment, you need to take a deep breath. Take a few deep breaths, right? Take some deep breaths, because what that does physiologically, it calms you down. It allows your mind to go from flight and fight, or whatever it is that you go to, flight or fight, and really stay in the moment and present with your wife. Because the whole goal is not to turn away. The whole goal is to turn towards, to lean in, to really hear what she's trying to communicate. Because underneath that anger, that frustration, that irritation, whatever it may be, whatever you make or think that she's going through, and you start escalating, you get triggered, taking deep breaths is one of those very important things to do to calm you down, in order for you to lean in and really hear what your wife is saying. Again, emotions are messengers of love, and so you're gonna miss the whole message of love that your wife is trying to communicate to you when you get escalated, when the both of you get triggered and you get into this negative pattern of communication and argument. So take a step back and then take deep breaths. The second thing in the STOP strategy. And the third thing in the STOP strategy is which is observe the situation. This is where you need to, after taking a step back, after taking deep breaths, you observe what's going on. What is she talking about? The goal in this point is to answer fully, what is she upset about? Now, you may be quick to answer that. And if you're quick to answer that, then you have not understood what she's saying fully, because her reactions, her frustrations, her communication pieces is actually a lot deeper. And so this is where you suspend, you pause, you avoid justifying and defending and cutting her off in her responses. The goal is for you to fully understand, and for you to fully understand what she's upset about, you must simply let her finish let her finish what she needs to say. So saying stuff like, can you help me understand what's upsetting you, or why is this upsetting you? What's your point? What are you really mad about? And not, again, avoid justifying and defending, and let her fully get to what she's trying to get to, without you interjecting, without you butting in, without you stepping in with your justifications, your reasonings, and why you think you're right and she's wrong. And again, I say this, if you are right and she's wrong, you're both wrong. If you win and she loses, you both lose. So it's really important for you to pause your justification defensive stance and let her answer fully. And the fourth one, in regards to stopping your fighting, with the acronym S.T.O.P, is proceed with validation. Now, the thing about proceeding with validation, this is very important. I think of all of them, this is one of those very key ones, because if you can do the 3 right, but you do the 4th one wrong, it still messes up the whole process, right? So the P in proceeding with validation really is getting to the part where you're validating her experience, you're validating her perspective. Validation, remember, validation means she feels, your wife feels, and she recognizes and she understands that you feel her pain, that she sees that my husband understands my pain, feels my pain, understand my perspective, maybe not necessarily pain, but my frustration, where I'm coming from. It's that whole cliche, like I mentioned before, having to walk a mile in her shoes or her heels, whatever it is. But having to recognize that she understands my husband gets me. He hears me. He feels my pain, my frustration, what I'm irritated, what I'm upset about, right? It's where you come to the point in saying, where because of validating her perspective, is you coming to the point, husband, and saying, you know what, babe, that makes sense. I can hear why, I can see why you're upset and frustrated. Now, I would feel the same way too if I was in your shoes, if I was in your understanding. That doesn't mean you agreed with what she's saying. You don't always have to agree to validate. However, what's very important again is having to understand where she's coming from. And when you can understand truly where she's coming from, and that's not easy. That doesn't happen quickly, right in the moment. It happens because you are able to observe the situation, ask questions, help me understand why. After that whole line of questioning and clarification questions as to understanding her perspective, you can proceed with validation and saying, you know what, that makes sense. Babe, I would feel the same way. I'm so sorry you feel that way, right? If you're able to say that, that's how it's supposed to be. It's powerful. So one of the best things we can do for our relationship is to recognize the patterns in ourselves and understand what are the things that I do as a husband, what are the things that we do as men, what are the things that we do in ourselves, the patterns in ourselves that gets in the way of causing this friction, causes conflict, causes these toxicity in between you and your wife, right? And so to help strengthen the relationship and learn more about how to recognize the things inside of you that gets in the way, watch this video.